Hello, good evening and welcome to my humble model railway, Bedstead Junction. This is going to be the second video I'm making today. It's Thursday the 17th of April 2025. Okay, and you can probably hear a locomotive working in the background there. Now, my previous video I actually showed you my newly acquired Dapol Class 22, which was really they were called Baby Warships, and the diesel hydraulics had a fairly short service life on the western region of British Rail, unfortunately. They were deemed to be non-standard and were taken out of service in favour of diesel electrics. And also in 1976, of course, the Intercity 125 trains come into being. Well, this is going to be depicting, as much as I can, the transition from steam to diesel. And in fact, we're going to imagine that it's D-Day or Diesel Day on the western region of British Rail, where they've completely gone ahead with the transition from steam to diesel. Now, I hope you enjoy watching this video, and we're going to see some examples of diesel traction on the western region of British Rail. And without any further ado, I'll turn the camera around and then we'll have a look at our first video with, or a locomotive, let's say, which is in action right now. Okay, thank you. Now, the first model we can see going around the track tonight, it's got an interesting history, at least model-wise, for me. I bought this model from a trade stand right way back in the mid-1990s, and the locomotive itself was going bang bang bang, clonk 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 when I bought it. I have actually put a replacement drive cog in there. What can happen is that the actual drive cog on the axle can split on these. I've replaced one but not the other. So I've kept one spare just in case I get any more trouble. You can still buy those if you look up on eBay. In fact, I did a feature on this in one of my previous videos. So if any of you have got a mainline model which is out of action because of a split drive cogs, there is a video on there. In fact, I might replace the other one and do a more thorough video of the replacement. Now, something to bear in mind about this particular model is that we'll be around about 40 years old at least, okay, because Mainline stopped producing locomotives and railway items in 1984. Now, it wasn't because they went bust, it was because the parent company, Palatoy, decided that there were more lucrative areas of the toy market to exploit. Of course, what happened was that eventually the Mainline name went through Replica Railway briefly, but then became Bachmann. And so this is really, in some ways, a very, very, very early version of what must have become one of the first Bachmann locomotives. The detail way, way ahead of anything on the market, in my opinion, at the time. This one has also got a light up cap and front head coat, which is something you don't get on the Lima warships or on the Hornby Railroad versions. You can hear the mechanism. I mean, I've got to be honest, yes, the mechanism is slightly more noisy than a modern locomotive. Bear in mind, this is what you could get 40 odd years ago, and we're looking at something that's 40 years old. I managed to get this running more or less okay. I do have warships also in the Hornby, from the Hornby Railroad range, and also from the Lima. And I do believe that the Hornby Railroad warship is actually based on the earlier Lima toolings. Just give a little bit of history on these. These are built to replace our, the beloved Castles and Kings and everything else that was on the western region of British Rail. And they came into service in the late 1950s, but they were all gone by the early 1970s. They were even used on the route between Salisbury, I think between Waterloo and Exeter Central, because I think the line west of Salisbury came under the western region of British Rail. So you can even see warships on that line at some point. I do believe they were double-headed. But you see, lovely little locomotive going round. I say it's been in World War III. It did have steps by the cabs. They've been snapped off, and I don't know whether or not that was because it interfered with the performance of the locomotive on tight radius track. But the steps that were once on there were broken off. I might look out for a better mainline locomotive, just to give you a bit of historical context. And if you imagine, say for example, going back to 1963, I would have been about 6 or 7 years old then. But in 1963, that's when the Cheddar Valley line came to an end. Now they did, I do have a video of that, and it does show the last strawberry train going down to Yatton. But when they get to Yatton, this is the kind of railway locomotive they could actually typically see racing through the station. By 1963, the Kings had been withdrawn, and by the end of 1965, all of the Western Region steam locomotive fleet had also been withdrawn. But really, in that video of the Cheddar Valley line, which I actually saw, you got to Yatton and basically you could see the future. At least up to about 1977-78, when the last of the Western Region diesel hydraulic fleet were finally withdrawn. Like I say, they had a relatively short service life, but they were part of the transition from steam to diesel. Now what we'll do is we're going to be running this locomotive in now. I'm going to have another look at our Dapol Baby Warship. Obviously the smaller version of this. These were designed for mainline express passenger use and freights, I believe. But then the next locomotive we're going to see became used for light freight duties and local passenger duties. So we're just going to change the points now. Now we're filming this on my Canon V10, which is got a kind of a fixed lens on it, and it's very, very wide angle, so it's kind of taking in all of the layout. Now I don't know whether or not you prefer that view, or me just zoomed in a little with the Canon M50, but I thought I'd get this one out and just film with this particular camera for a change. So if you just bear with me, I'm just going to have a quick change of points, and we're going to run this locomotive into the station. And then if you missed my previous video with the just bear with me just for one moment, so I do believe we have a technical hitch. Right, I think it was probably me just being a bit too timid with the controller. I do forget this locomotive hasn't had much use for quite some time. So when it comes into the station now, as you see, over the points very, very well. And there we go. I quite like the Warship diesels, to be honest with you. They were an example, obviously, of the Western region of British Rail's first attempt at dieselisation, along with the Baby Warships. Obviously, later on came the High-Mechs and the Westerns. Now we're just going to have a quick change of points once more, and we'll have another look at our Baby Warship in action. So we'll just take this one up out of the station, and as you probably witnessed from this, the mechanism is much more quiet on this one. But bear in mind that old mainline locomotive you saw there, that one has been in World War III, or it had been when I'd actually bought it, and I did pay quite cheap for it, actually, about a tenner I think. But now we're going to be moving on to this Dapol version, which I did a video in great length earlier. Okay, so right, away we go. Now this locomotive, I would say that if you're sitting on the fence about buying one of these, I would go ahead and get one. If you're a fan of the Western region of British Rail, certainly in the transition from steam to diesel, then this will be definitely a locomotive to be putting on your wish list. So they had a very, very short career. They were built between 1958 and 1962, and I think they were all withdrawn by 1971. So they had, some of them had a less than 10-year service life. Now, just out of interest, for those of you who like to see what I'm drinking from, I'm enjoying a coffee while I'm filming this. Mr. Train Buff, #1 train spotter, again by Mr. Train Buff. A title which I claim quite wholeheartedly. So this is the Dapol Baby Warship. Now, for those of you who missed the video, it's got working lights on the front, and when you change direction, yes, the tail lamp does come on as it does change ends. So you get the red tail lamp and the headlights coming on in the correct sequence. A really nice model. I mean, this really goes to show how far mechanisms have come. A really good smooth runner, this. I say, if you want a more thorough review of this one, then certainly have a look at my previous video, which this one was actually covered in. But very, very, very few items of footage available of these locomotives actually in action. I've only seen brief glimpses of these. Now, I guess in the 1960s, people were quite rightly busy out filming the steam engines while they could, before they were all withdrawn. And although the British, the Western region of British Rail were the first to dieselise, as far as I'm aware, really by 1969, the last of the steam engines were taken off British service in BR in all the regions, and diesel and electric began to take over. So these little baby warships, they're very much an important part of our history on British Rail. Now we're just going to bring this one in just a moment to give you a chance to watch it going round. Like I say, I've got a very wide angle view here, so you sorry, I'll let the tripod down height-wise then. Now there we go, that's more like it. Okay, so you can see very wide angle view of my layout tonight. Now we're going to run the Baby Warship in because we're going to have a look at two other trains. I will be looking at a diesel railcar and a diesel multiple unit, because they also were an important factor in the dieselisation of the western region of British Rail. So let's bring this one in now. Let's have a quick change of points once more. And you can see this one coming into the station now. The Baby Warship. I say, only had this. Well, I got this yesterday, but only managed to get a chance to get out of the box and run it for today. And you can see that one gliding into the station. Now, if you want DCC, the lighting will be on all the time. Obviously, with DC, on the particular one, the lighting depends on the controller being turned up. So you will actually get the lighting come on when the locomotive is actually moving. Looking at this lighting in here, there's often a temptation for me to go DCC, but that would mean having to convert an awful lot of locomotives. Now we're looking across over there to the branch line station, as I call it, and we're going to take a look at the diesel railcar. Now these apparently can be seen all over British Rail. I think they were originally brought in for fast trains between Birmingham and Cardiff, but eventually they were used all over the place. They could be. I've actually seen photographs of these even at Bath Green Park, if I can recall. Now we'll just check. We've got the. There we go. So this is the. Now this model we're seeing coming out from here now is a model by Lima. Okay, so we'll just set it going forwards. And these were really the first real attempts, or serious attempts, of the Great Western, as it was at the time, to go diesel. Now this Lima model, I've had since the mid 1990s. You can get them. I think Dapol make them. Other manufacturers have come out with them. But I think you'll agree it's not a bad little runner. Okay, it doesn't have lights on it or anything like that. They're very nice. This manufacturer, Lima, ceased trading, I believe, in 2004. And I bought some of the very last locomotives which Lima produced. I think my last Lima locomotive I bought was the Warship in maroon, and that was Druid, which I've run on this layout very often. And these diesel rail cars can also be seen on branches. And I do believe that these were actually run on the Strawberry line. Now this is the more angular model. The other one that was known as the Flying Banana, I believe. And certainly they certainly fulfilled their role. There were also versions built for taking parcels traffic. And I think they could take 70 passengers, these rail cars. Very, very nice model this, from Lima. If you do buy one of these, bear in mind that they had to accommodate a rather large motor, and so I do believe one end is actually taken up by a big sort of Wingfoot style motor on one of these. But I reckon it's a lovely little runner, this. Now, dieselisation. I've said in previous videos, and I'll say it again, it must have been one heck of a shock to a lot of railwaymen, especially some people who'd maybe learnt their trade over many, many years and learnt how to drive, maintain and look after steam locomotives, to suddenly be confronted with these new diesels. Sadly, some of the drivers who've given many, many years good service were suddenly confronted with these diesel locomotives, and they couldn't get on with them. And very often even top link drivers came off of their top link duties to take less stressful jobs. So it was, I mean, if you imagine that, you know, everything you'd ever learnt in a job was suddenly turned upside down, and that would have happened. Some people took to the diesels like ducks to water. There's a book called Diesels, A Driver's Reminiscences by L.C. Jacks. L.C., that's his initials. And in there, he actually talks about, you know, really taking like a duck to water to diesel traction, and, you know, he couldn't wait to get his hands on all that power, and some people must have felt like that. Now we're going to run this lovely little rail car into the Mainline station in just a moment. Then we're going to run our last item for this evening. Round we come. We're going to change the points ready for this now. We'll go over, look over towards there. Obviously we're taking in the whole of the layout on this with this little camera here. So in we go, and we're going into our little branch line station. Now in with the next item we'll be looking at is also by Lima, and this is what they call a Class 121 diesel multiple unit. And they were known as bubble cars, probably because of their appearance of their cabs. Out it comes from the station now. Again, you can hear the mechanism going. Not much we can do about that. I bought this one, I think, yes, in the mid-2000s. And it was bought not long before Lima ceased trading. As I stand corrected, it might have been the mid-1990s. I do apologise if I've got that wrong. I know I certainly bought Druid in that time. But these bubble cars, now they ended up taking over services on branch lines. They could be seen on the Clevedon branch, and certainly the place where they were, certainly the West Country where they spent the longest, was on the Bridport branch, which I believe closed in the late 1970s, and it gained about 1977. The Bridport branch was one of the last of the beaching closures, and it was one of these single rail cars that actually provided the service on that line before it closed. So if you're ever travelling from Bristol to Weymouth, or from Westbury to Weymouth, and you're on that line, and you get to Maiden Newton station, that would have been the junction for the Bridport branch. If you go to West Bay, which is near Bridport, West Bay railway station is still there. It's now a restaurant. I do believe the West Bay branch closed in the 1930s, but they kept the station. The station is in very good condition. Well worth a visit if you're down in West Bay near Bridport. These Class 121 bubble cars, very nice model, I do believe. I say it's from Lima once again, and Lima actually found their way into very much of the Hornby Railroad range, the Thule. Hornby actually own the Lima brand now. Now you can imagine this locomotive, or this bubble car, going up and down the Bridport branch. I do believe that these were still in service right up into the early 2000s. In Buckinghamshire, I think they all ended up, or a lot of them ended up. So they give many years good service. The pity really was when they came out with these diesel multiple units, the very branch lines they were supposed to be running on gradually got closed. I mean, was Dr. Beeching right in his drastic search of our railways? Well, I think possibly he was given a job to do, which was to cut the losses. And governments are only there for a very short space of time, aren't they, usually? Well, they were back then. And perhaps they weren't looking that far into the future. Obviously, the most exciting thing about railways reopening now is that a lot of branches are coming back in as preserved lines, and that we're hoping, at least I'm able to see in my lifetime, the reopening of the Portishead branch. There's actually got freight traffic going over it now at the moment, but they're planning on that going right into Portishead and taking passengers. Clevedon, will Clevedon ever get a railway service again? I don't know. The branch went from Clevedon to Yatton. The mainline station being at Yatton, of course. And you can still see traces of that line, and the line where locomotives such as these will have run. I keep calling them locomotives, but obviously they're diesel multiple units, aren't they? Now, it is just a brief little look at the western region of British Rail and their transition over from steam to diesel. On the Clevedon branch, these replaced the auto trains, which were powered by 14 XX locomotives. Now we're going to leave it here now, because it's a very I was hoping to make this a short video, just showing my little running session which I'll be joining now. It's actually 20 to 11 in the evening now, so I'll be taking this one down. This obviously one for the night owls, if I put this one out tonight for you. Now, as always, what I would say is that if you like what you see, please press the like button. And so if you've not done it already, please subscribe to my channel. It does make a big difference. I'm just over, I think I'm on about 530 subscribers now. For all those of you who have subscribed to my channel, I really do thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. It does make a big difference. I mean, my channel is relatively small, I know, but it's beyond all my wildest dreams that I've even got this number of subscribers and people watching. When I started this back in the pandemic times, and I was getting about to maybe 10 or 20 views on my videos, and I was over the moon with that. I was thinking, my goodness, that many people want to see it. And I say for all of you people who have been watching and subscribing to my channel, I do thank you very, very much for that. And on that note, I should bid you farewell and good night. And at some point, obviously, sadly, I'm going to have to take this railway down. I'm going to be moving this railway shortly into the other bedroom, because or I might be moving into the other bedroom and leaving this railway permanently up in here. We'll have to wait and see, but hold this space for future developments. Okay, so thank you very, very much for watching. I should bid you farewell and bye bye for now.